You've invested in a few very successful moonshots. What are some of those questions that you ask to analyze whether it's one worth taking a big bet on?
Yeah. I think the first thing you need to understand is like really what is the risk that you're taking, right? And when you're actually looking at moonshot, and the definition of moonshot usually is around technology risk.
Mm-hmm.
And you're also taking some risk around is the market ready for this technology? So I think the first question is like, okay, can this be done? And assuming that this is possible to be done, will the market be ready for it? Like those are the two big risks that you're taking. And then the third dimension of it is like, okay, how much does it cost? And can I actually find capital to, support all that? But, like the first one, there's so many markets right now that are extremely large, and all the way from space. There's so much happening in space technology, thinking about a world where you have a lot of satellites, a lot of data collection, thinking about space cleanups, thinking about new communication in space. Like there's a lot of investments happening there. Thinking about, okay, healthcare, but more around drug discovery, right? Really like that resurgence of now that you have DNA sequencing, now that you have personalized medicine, like what does it mean for biotech? And markets really ready to adopt and fund around autonomy and AI, cars, trucks, VTOLs, like all that stuff. So there's so many big markets that I think on the question, like, is the market ready to adopt? I think market risk is a lot less than it used to be 10, 15 years ago in so many big areas. I think the question then goes down to, is it possible? And really spending time understanding the technology. What are the big milestones that the company needs to hit? How much does it take to get there? And the hard thing about moonshots is sometimes you may make a really cool scientific progress. They're like, oh my God, look at this thing that was never possible scientifically, that the market goes and looks like, that cost a lot of money, a lot of time, that's super cool in the lab, but from like will the market value that is not there. So actually tying those things together is a really important thing.
Yeah, on the timing question, I remember there's a TED Talk, I think, somewhere on the internet about timing being the biggest factor for success, right? And, it's something, it's a really hard thing to assess whether this is like, is this the time now? How do you even grapple with that? What's the thought process like? You're looking at something that appears super futuristic, but, there's a couple indicators that it could be the time could be now.
So the framework that I used to think about it is that the question of what needs to be true. Mm-hmm. And applying that question to all the different aspects. Right? So, okay, what needs to be true on the technology, right? And like really underpinning, like, do you have all the inputs, right? Do you need to change inputs? Let's say you need a semiconductor that either doesn't exist or there are very few in the world. Okay, that increases risk, right? So, really thinking about, okay, from a technology standpoint, what is the cost for the inputs that you need, right? Now, for example, in biotech, the cost of DNA sequencing came down, it's going to be down less than $100, right? And that there's so much availability of people doing research, of infrastructure, right? So like that lowers the risk of things happening. And then when you think about, okay, market adoption, okay, how many potential customers are there, right? Is it fragmented or is it not? Do you need a huge market share to make it a big business or not? What is the time frame for this thing, right? Is it something that, maybe it's possible in 10 years, or no, maybe it's possible in 2-3 years, and they're demonstrable milestones. So I think actually getting granular, okay, like what needs to be true, and trying to understand in those vectors, it's something that actually helps break it down.